Welcome back. In this exercise, we are going to see three components. The first component is going to be your filters, and the second thing is going to be your validation part, and your third thing is going to be your routing. So all these three parameters or three factors which we are going to see is going to go related with your AngularJS. So let's start quickly with filters. So what is a filter? Filter can be added to your regular AngularJS to format a particular data. So I could quickly give you an example such that we can understand how your filter works. Okay, and here I have initialized my name, say a last name, and here I'm going to use the phrase called I'm going to apply a filter called uppercase. Okay, so as the filter specifies, it is going to convert the name which is given out here to the corresponding uppercase. So here I call this uppercase as the filter, which is a keyword, and here this pipe symbol represents also it says that the text is being fed to this particular filter, right? So there are lots and lots of filters in your AngularJS. Say for example, uppercase, lowercase, currency, date, and as such. So we can quickly see how your output is going to be. So let me give my last name out here, right? And let's check out how it is going to work. Okay, so I'm giving my last name and I want this to be getting printed in upper cases. How do I do it? So I go to my corresponding last name and I give the filter inside the expressions. So when I do that, I'll be able to format the particular text as I desire. Say over here it's going to be the uppercase. So now let's quickly run and see the program whether it's running or not. I go to this place and let me check it out, and here you can see how your data is getting transformed from your regular text to the uppercase. So likewise I can apply the other filter also. Here you could see how your filter is being working it out, right? So let me go to the browser and let me show it out. See how the text is getting formatted, right? Similarly, if I want to apply say formatting for my currency, okay, I wanted to display a, say a integer, right? An integer in terms of currency, how it is going to be done. So I use the pipe symbol and the corresponding filter. So when I do that, defaultly it uses the dollar and the corresponding value is going to be putting in, right? And every filter has some additional options. We can use colon and we can have say a certain set of properties. Say for example, date out here, we can specify how your date is supposed to get visualized. Say if I don't give any date here, I have initialized my date using the JavaScript object here, right? I'm setting a date, and I want this particular date to be formatted in a particular way, right? I can use this date filter, and let me run it and show you. I'm feeding it in this format. I'm calling in 1st November 2023. Let's see how this is getting printed here. It's being transformed into this particular format. Now you might ask, sir, I want it in some other format. I want only say my month to be displayed or my years to be displayed. All you have to do is use semicolon and the corresponding methods. Say for example okay, I want it in small notations. If I'm going to do that, and when I'm going to refresh it and see, you could see this, right? So represents the corresponding say your smaller notations, right? And when you give alone y, right, this gives you some short year maybe. Let's check it out. See 2023, the shorter version of your 23 is being told. And for I'll give you what all the string which you have to have it. Say for example, how to display a year in full format, right? They are half format, the month to be displayed, right? Small m represents minutes, whereas your capital M represents January. So earlier case I used small m right? So that represents the default minutes which is being set, right? So not only a date, you can even have your week, right? Day, time, everything gets included when you are going to use this particular notations. And if you are so tired of using all these things, you can use the well formatted syntax. Say for example, short will give you this particular format syntax. Now let's quickly try it out whether this is working. So let me go to my VS Code and let me give it as say a short code for this particular one. And let us check the output. Here you could clearly see how this is automatically converted to this particular type of declarations. Thus every filter has its own properties. Do try out with all other things also. Say for example, filter will give you a subset of elements from an array, right? We can give filter colon and you can give in the search query. Once it searches the array and it fetches it out. JSON, it will convert anything to your JSON string. Limit to, it is going to search or it is going to limit to a certain content. And lowercase and uppercase, I have told you what it's going to do. It is going to convert the particular string to the lowercase or the uppercase. Number is going to format a number to a string. Order by, it is used to sort based on certain locations. So you are free to use all the filters in this current experiment. So this is your first part of your this exercise. So this is going to be your filter. Now let's quickly go into your second part of your this exercise, right? So this is going to be your validation part. So validation part, AngularJS provides more functionality when compared to other similar programming languages, right? So frameworks, I could say, right? So here you have to know certain aspects. Say for example, if you have the general validation which you perform might be whether a text box is empty, right? Whether it has a proper value, right? And during form submission, whether all the fields are filled or not, right? This is the validation you might be knowing in, but AngularJS goes way ahead of what you think, right? It provides you more functionality. Even we can find out whether a particular text box is touched or not. Say for example, touched in the sense a field, if a text box is touched, this is going to return true value. If it is not untouched, it's going to give true value. If it's being touched, right, it's going to give you some value, to be precise. Pristine, right? So the value, the data already existing in a particular text box, it's not changed, right? So in those scenario, I can say it as pristine. And dirty, if the content is changed, I can say it as dirty. Valid, we can say whether a particular data entered is valid or not. Say for example, a email ID, if it is going to, when I keep the text box type as email ID, and if I want to check whether it is valid or not, right, I can just call in this particular validation syntax and I can check it out. And invalid, this is going to give me this thing. So when an email ID is proper, this valid is going to return me true. When it is going to be not improper, it is going to give true, right? So all these properties are related to your input field. They are going to give you either true or false. Okay, it's going to give you true or false. And we can call all these things as states even, right? Say pristine, dirty, invalid, valid, submitted, all these states, we can say it as, based on these states we can perform your validation. So I can quickly give you an example for it. So here I have a form and I have my input element, and when I say it is required, right, so it is going to how will I check it out? We can use your expressions, and in expressions we can select, or we can uniquely check out a particular form element by this way. So my form dot my input dot, and I can directly use these kind of states. Say for example, slash valid. So what happens, it is going to check whether the data is entered or not. So if it is going to be entered, this is going to give me true value, otherwise it's going to give me false values. So you might be wondering, how will I use this particular one in my program, right? What you can do is you can have a text box. Besides it, you can give some warning symbols. Say for example, if form dot my input dot valid, okay, or invalid, right, dirty. So all these conditions could be kept in boolean expressions. We can have it as boolean expressions, not only one states, we can check it for multiple things, right? So based on that, you can give some error messages and other stuff. I can quickly give you a small say demo, right? Here I'm using uh, the courtesy of W3 schools. Let me go here and let me go for validations. Here we can quickly see how they are performing their validations based on these states. So here I'll be able to check whether my states is available or not. So if I'm going to write something, when it is condition is met, it becomes valid. So this condition returns me the true statement. Whereas if I want to check whether this is a valid email ID or not, say the type I am giving it in, and I'm going to check whether it's valid or not, I can clearly check it out using these conditions. So how will I use it in my notations and other stuff? You can use the same thing inside your controller also. You can use the same conditions in your controller also, right? And you can check whether the particular state is achieved or not. So that will be rather good for you, right? Say all these states are there. Here this is an example, wonderful example to show whether a date is entered or not, right? So here if I'm going to give improper name, let's check, right? So let's give what they say, any error message if it is going to be invalid or not. Say if I'm going to type in the address alone, right? Let's check it out whether this is running. They are given us two text boxes. So the first text box, they are saying it as mandated, it is required, right? And what they are trying to do is they are having another spam. This will show when this is being set as true. Say here I'm going to keep it as touched, right? And the other thing, my name is invalid. Say for example 123. If I'm going to give, try leaving, here you go, right? So when I give in some improper values, right, so it is going to work here and it is going to get displayed. So I can have multiple conditions being checked at a given time. So this is much more sophisticated, say validations are provided through your AngularJS. So now first what we saw about your various types of filters, where you can assign your filters to your datas and get formatted. Second thing, we performed validations using all these states available in your AngularJS. Now we'll quickly go and finish off this experiment with your routing. Okay, what is this routing in AngularJS? So if I want a particular web page to be a single page applications, I can go in for your Angular routing, right? Here the major thing which you're going to talk about is your ng-route module, right? So what does the module required for routing in AngularJS is going to be ng-route. So let me quickly make an demo with the program. So here you go. So this is the code. So I have multiple names out here, right? So on clicking this, a particular student's data has to come in. So let's see how this is going to work, right? So for that, let's discuss how the code is going to work, right? So here you go, the code for this particular routing, right? You have all your regular dependencies, angular.min.js. This is the requirement number one, as usual requirement for AngularJS. And for routing, you should be having this particular say your JS file. This is your mandate number 2, mandate 1 and mandate 2. This is very much required. And here what I do is I have various kind of anchor tags with the keywords which I want to perform. Okay, so this is the keyword which is going to get mapped with your routing, right? Say for example in external, what should happen? For my this register number, what should happen? This register number, what should happen? And this register number, what should happen? So I'm mapping it out based on this. I'm not giving any HTML links or anything which we usually give for your anchor tag, right? So here I'm giving in certain keywords. So now what we do, we have to map this keywords with the corresponding paths. Now let's quickly go into this, right? So just like any other Angular program, you start with your initialization angular.module, my name, and usually you will give an empty square bracket, usually denoting the dependencies. Here I am dependent on this particular routing module ng route, so I'm going to use this. So I am using this ng route, and what I do is, once I do it, right, and I have to now define or configure this particular routing sequence in your Angular program. For that I use config method, right? Usually for your controllers, you'll be having app.controller, which you usually give for your other say regular controllers, say button click or whatever actions you want to do, you use it using your controller. For routing, you are supposed to have config. Okay, so config is going to have just one parameter being passed, that is going to be a function, right? That function is going to have the default router provider function. I mean, this keyword is going to be used. Okay, so router provider is the another keyword which is going to be used, wherein we are going to get this router provider class, and we are going to perform all these operations. Okay, this object is being passed, right, router provider, and this is how we are going to perform your routing. Let me repeat once again. From your regular program, what changes you have to do? We are supposed to give the mandate routing thing module here. This is point number one. Point number two, you are supposed to have your configuration method being called, and which has a anonymous function with root provider object in it. Okay, so the root provider will take two values. Okay, your root provider is going to take two values. One is going to be when, and other thing is going to be otherwise. Okay, so when is going to be, we are going to define what is going to happen at a particular keyword, right? The URL and the corresponding keyword, what should happen. It's always good to start with the root. Okay, that is only a URL, what should be happening. Okay, and for each keyword you can say start by giving slash and particular keyword. So where is the keyword? Keyword is defined in your anchor tag. So here I'm going to use 4 anchor tags. So likewise I'm going to have 4 particular definition using your when, right? So root provider object, with that I'm going to say when the URL is going to be this external, I'm saying template URL is equal to and HTML page which is being defined outside. Okay, I have it in the same directory, so I'm defining it outside. So if I'm going to refer outside the HTML pages, ensure that only the content is there, not the main body is being defined in this HTML page. Don't use your main HTML and other stuff. Only the content that is present in the body has to be kept inside this particular one. Now, sir, I have just one line or two line of HTML. Can I define it in the same page? Yes, you may, right? So it's a unwritten rule. You may have up to like say 10 lines if you want, right? So in those cases, you are supposed to use this particular property called template, not template URL. So template URL to define the URL where my web page is. Second is going to be my template. So template is where I'm going to define it out, right? So this is true for all the other links also, right? And at last I can have something called otherwise. Otherwise is going to work where you may not expect an output. Say for example, here if you could see the output, right? Here is where you are going to give it in. This is where the place where you are going to call in, right? So if some other data is being passed in, right, what should happen? Okay, this is the URL calling actually. So here is where your external link and your register numbers is being called. So if this is going to be some other value key search term, what should happen? So here you can have it like this. And for this to work, this will work fine with your internal HTML, no issues at all. Let me go to your web page and show you. See, I have no problem with my HTML which is being given in my template, okay, but it doesn't work with your external URL, okay, that is template URL whichever you're giving, right? So it won't work with your double clicking, so it has to be mounted in a server for that particular link to work. So what I have done is, in my Visual Studio I have installed a live server. It's a plugin, it's a simple step. Let me repeat. I have installed a add-on to this particular Visual Studio Code. It is called as Live Studio, and once you have installed it, you can give in an option called Go Live. It will be towards your left side, right side bottom, and once you are giving Go live, you will be asked to give this mandate, that is file open folder. Once you are selecting a particular folder, right, so you will be now in a position to run this particular code. So here you can go and give Go live. Now your particular web page will be loaded up in an your local host server. Now if you could see this, the content is being working seamlessly. Even your external link will work perfectly, right? So now let's summarize what and all we saw for today's lab. Number one, we saw about your filters. This is used to format your existing data, right? There are lots and lots of Angular filters. Please check it out. Second thing, we saw validations, wherein we are going to check whether it's check a particular content based on the states, say untouched, touch, pristine, dirty, and invalid, valid. All these states are there. We can check out, and we'll be able to get this boolean values. With that, we'll be performing validations, right? This is your second part. And the third part is how to route using your AngularJS, right? We use a module called ng-route, and we use the route provider object with when method or otherwise method. What should happen? And we saw how to perform routing using your live server in your Visual Studio Code, right? So with this, we complete your AngularJS lab modules, right? For if you have any other doubt, please don't hesitate to ask us in class. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.